The conga, also known as tumbadora, is a tall, narrow, single-headed drum from Cuba. Congas are staved-like barrels and classified into three types: quinto, dos or tres golpes, and tumba or salidor. Congas are traditionally used in Afro-Cuban genres such as conga and rumba, although they are now very common in many other forms of Latin music, including descarga, Afro-Cuban jazz, salsa, songo, merengue and Latin rock. Characteristics: most modern congas have a staved wooden or fiberglass shell, and a screw-tension drumhead. They are usually played in sets of 2 to 4 with the fingers in palms of the hand. Typical congas stand approximately 75 centimeters from the bottom of the shell to the head. The drums may be played while seated. Alternatively, the drums may be mounted on a rack or stand to permit the player to play while standing. While they originated in Cuba, their incorporation into the popular and folk music of other countries has resulted in diversification of terminology for the instruments and the players. In Cuba, congas are called tumbadoras. Conga players are called congueros, while rumberos refers to those who dance following the path of the players. The term conga was popularized in the 1950s, when Latin music swept the United States. Cuban sun and New York jazz fused together to create what was then termed mambo, but later became known as salsa. In that same period, the popularity of the conga line helped to spread this new term. Daisianas also played a role in the popularization of conga drums. However, the drum he played was similar to the type of drum known as boca used in his hometown, Santiago de Cuba. The word conga came from the rhythm la conga used during Carnival in Cuba. The drums used in Carnival could have been referred to as tambores de conga since they played the rhythm la conga, and thus translated into English as conga drums. Playing techniques. Strokes equals, there are 5 basic strokes. Open tone is played with the 4 fingers near the rim of the head, producing a clear resonant tone with a distinct pitch. Muffled or mute tone, like the open tone, is made by striking the drum with the 4 fingers, but holding the fingers against the head to muffle the tone. Bass tone, played with the full palm on the head. It produces a low muted sound. Slap tone, the most difficult technique, producing a loud clear popping sound. Touch tone, as implied by the name, this tone is produced by just touching the fingers or heel of the palm to the drum head. It is possible to alternate a touch of the palm with a touch of the fingers in a maneuver called heel toe, which can be used to produce the conga equivalent of drum rolls. Glissando and pitch bending equals, the moose call or glissando is done by rubbing the third finger, supported by the thumb, across the head of the drum. The finger is sometimes moistened with saliva or sweat, and sometimes a little coat of beeswax is put on the surface of the conga head to help make the sound. The moose call is also done on the bongos. To bend the pitch of the congas, a congro sometimes uses his elbow to shift around on and apply pressure to different parts of the head. This causes the note to change. This is not a traditional stroke, but it is common in modern salsa and rumba. Rhythms. Gaguanca cubed use 3 congas. The smallest conga is the lead drum known as quinto. The following 9-measure quinto excerpt is from the Gaguanca cubed Oe la Pola copyright Mica by Los Mua ± Equitos de Matanzas. This passage moves between the main modes of playing. The A section is the basic lock or ride, as it is known in North America. It spans 1 clave. An alternate phrase is also 1 measure in length. Cross beats, the basis of the 3rd section, contradict the meter. By alternating between the lock and the cross, the quinto creates larger rhythmic phrases that expand and contract over several clave cycles. The great Los Mua ± Equintos Quinto Ogiza S. Alfonso described this phenomenon as a man getting a drunk at a party, going outside for a while, and then coming back inside a euro. Marcha equals. Clave neutral, the basic San Montino conga pattern is called marcha, or tumbao. The conga was first used in bands during the late 1930s, and became a staple of mambo bands of the 1940s. The primary strokes are sounded with open tones, on the last offbeats of a 2-beat cycle. The fundamental accent Euro-2 and is referred to by some musicians as ponche. Clave-aligned, the basic tumbao sound slaps and open tones on the and off beats. There are many variations on the basic tumbao. For example, a very common variant sounds a single open tone with a third stroke of clave, and two tones preceding the three-side of clave. The specific alignment between clave and this tumbao is critical. Another common variant uses two drums and sounds bombo on the tumba. For example, the conga marcha can be heard on countless recordings, including these, Wa Como Va by Tito Puente, Pedro Navajar by Willie Color-Cuban and Rumba copyright N Blades, Say La Ve by Andy Monta plus or minuses and Daddy Yankee, Watermelon Man by Mongo Santa Mara, Los Dos Jews by Domingo Kia plus or minus ones and Zion, Ama Verdandero and A Mara El Augusta by Afro-Cuban All Stars, Queza S, Queza S, Queza S by Omar Portuondo and Teresa Garcia Cartula, Armona as Del Roma plus or minus E by Tomatito, Soy Guanaco Salvadoria. Plus or minus O by Bobby Rivas, Hoy Tenemos by Sidestepper, Ahora Vengo Yo by Anthonius Mea, Richie Ray and Bobby Cruz, Hypocrite by Fruco y Sus Tisos, Esquica el Ritmo by Spanish Harlem Orchestra, Mi Voy Pa Cali by Oscar Cuban, Boogaloo Xavier by Sonora Seals, Virus by Bamboleo, Wa Baila Mi Onda by Orquesta Araga Cuban, El Barrio del Pilar by Orquesta Broadway, Bodas de Oro by Electo Rosil Shupa N. Bolero there is also the bolero rhythm that is used for ballads. The conga part is similar to the marcha and can be heard on these recordings, Buena Vista Social Club by Buena Vista Social Club, Melodía del Rayo by Ruben Gonzalez, Bar copyright Say Mucho by Andrea Bocelli, La Puerta by Luis Miguel. Songo era beginning in the late 1960s, band conga players began incorporating elements from folkloric rhythms, especially rumba. Shonito and Roel El Ulocar Adenas of Los Van Van pioneered this approach of the songo era. This relationship between the drums is derived from the style known as rumba. The feeling of a high drum part is like the quinto in rumba, constantly punctuating, coloring, and accenting, but not soloing until the appropriate moment. In several songo arrangements, the tumbadora part sounds the typical tumbao on the low-pitched drum, while replicating the quinto of Gagu and Cucubed on the high-pitched drum. The quinto-like phrases can continually change, but they are based upon a specific counterclave motif. C. Songo patterns on congas. Timba era Toma S. Cruz developed several adaptations of folkloric rhythms when working in Paulito FG's timba band of the 1990s. Cruz's creations offered clever counterpoints to the bass and chorus. Many of his marches span 2 or even 4 claves in duration, something very rarely done previously. He also made more use of muted tones in his tumbaos, all the while advancing the development of. The example on the right is one of Cruz's Inventos, a band adaptation of the Congolese-based Afro-Cuban folkloric rhythm Maquita. He played the pattern on 3 congas on the Paulito song Lamada Ana Cube Nima. Listen. Lamada Ana Cube Nima by Paulito FG. Use in non-Cuban genres. Dominican the merengue rhythm, used in orchestral merengue, goes 1-2-1-2. It can also be heard as 1-2-1-2-1-2-1-2-1-2. Essentially, it is the rhythm of the tambora applied to conga. This can be heard on Elvis Crespo's Suavement and Grupo Mania's Mi Miras Yte Miro. In merengue típico the rhythm is usually more complex and less standardized. It can range from simply hitting the conga on a 4th beat to playing full patterns that mark the time. The rhythm of palos is also representative of what we can call Afro-Dominican music. The drums are made out of hollowed-out tree trunks, and they are used both for secular and religious music in Santo Domingo and Haiti. The drums are called palos. The bolsi is another drum played with both feet and hands. The player sits on it and uses a friction technique called arrague. Panderas are also used in Dominican folk music, like congos, salsa, and palos. The Dominican version of the clave is la canoita, which are two sticks struck against each other, one with a handle. In the garga they also use palo drums and in the rhythm called palo de muerto, which is played when a member of the cofradia or brotherhood dies. The rhythm of palos is played throughout the Dominican Republic and is the national dance of the country. This music was suppressed and persecuted during Trujillo's rule due to social and racial discrimination. Colombian =, the cumbia rhythm, simple and slowly played, goes 1-2-2-1, also heard as 1-2-1-2. It can be heard in Fito Olivares' Mosaico Fiestero and La Cumbia Sampuesana y La Cumbia Cienegara by Ancieto Molino y Los Habaneros. Additional genres there are many other kinds of rhythms for the conga. It is constantly applied in new genres of music, therefore taking up the rhythms of that specific style, such as punta, reggaeton, Brazilian forms such as samba and bossa nova, and even reggae, funk, go-go, and country music. Tuning: conga drums are tunable to different notes. The original drums were tuned by adjusting knots and tension ropes on the drumhead, or, where the drumheads were tacked or nailed to the top of the shell, by careful heating of the head. Modern congas use a screw and lug tension head system, which makes them easier to tune. This modern type of tension system is attributed to Carlos Potato Valls, a popular Cuban congro. As was discussed above, terminology for the drums varies. Here, the naming system used is a composite of those mentioned before with those currently in use by major conga manufacturers. The drums are discussed in order from largest to smallest. The sizes of the drumheads given vary considerably by manufacturer, model, and style. The super tumba can be as large as 14 inches across. The tumba is typically 12 to 12.5 inches across. The conga is typically 11.5 to 12 inches across. The quinto is typically around 11 inches across. The requinto can be smaller than 10 inches across. The recado can be as small as 9 inches across. Since this drum is typically played while hanging from a shoulder strap, it is considerably shorter and narrower than a traditional conga. Tuning systems congas, being percussive instruments, do not have to be tuned to any particular note in purely percussive settings. However, when playing with harmonic instruments, they may be tuned to specific notes. Congas are often tuned using the open tone. In general, the particular note will depend on the make, model, and size of the conga drum. The drum should be tuned so that the bass tone resonates, the open tone rings, and the slap pierces through the musical mix. If the tuning is too loose, the bass and slap tones will sound flabby. Too tight, and the drums will sound unnatural and pinched. With a single drum, it is easy to tighten the drum until it makes a pleasing sound and then tighten a little more to reach a uniform desired pitch. It is very important to ensure that tuning is uniform around the drumhead, which can be checked by placing one finger pad in the center of the head and tapping the head near the edge above each lug location to detect any change, adjusting as necessary. Uniform tightness will help let the drum speak. Another important consideration is that head tension can greatly impact the ease or unease of the player, and generally a looser drumhead can lead to hand injury more than a tighter one, because a looser drumhead has less rebound and more muffling effect. Also, producing a crisp slap tone is nearly impossible on a loose head. During tuning it is suggested to let the drum speak, and to conform tuning reasonably closely to the natural resonance at the cavity of the drum interior presence. This resonance can be heard by singing or playing loud notes near the drum opening and noticing which pitch decay is slowest. That will either be the fundamental frequency or one of its simple overtones. When two or more drums are used, there is the potential for more variation of which notes are chosen. However, tuning between or during compositions is rare in live performance. With only two drums, it is common to find them tuned a perfect fourth apart, as is the tradition in Western classical music for the timpani. Having three drums invites experimentation and individual customization. Some congueros like using the intervals of a major chord. Some players use the second inversion of a major chord. And some prefer a major second between the quinto and conga, with a perfect fourth descending to the tumba. Raul Rico of Santana often plays 5 conga drums and tunes them to the opening phrase of a Latin tune. See also: List of conga players, tumbao, maquita, bongo, timbales. References. Bibliography: Cruz, Toma S., with Kevin Moore. The Toma S. Cruz Conga Method v. 3. Pacific, Missouri, Mel Bay. Dworsky, Alon. Betty Sansby. Conga Drumming, A Beginner's Guide to Playing with Time. Dancing Hands. ISBN 0-9638801-0-1. Morlier-Cubden, Rebecca. Salsa Guidebook for Piano and Ensemble. Petaluma, California, Shaw Music. ISBN 0-9614701-9-4. P plus or minus Aloza, David. Rumba Quinto. Rodway, California, Ben Books. ISBN 1-4537-1313-1, Sanchez, Poncho. Chuck Silverman. Poncho Sanchez Conga Cookbook. Cherry Lane Music. ISBN 1-57560-363-2. Borden, Nolan. A History of the Conga Drum. Percussive Notes 43, 8 €15. External links: Introduction to the Conga Drum at the Drum Dojo, Plans to build your own Conga drum. http://www.nolanwooden.com/ Conga_drum_history, Borden, PDF, information on the origin of congas and other facts. Percussion Conga anatomy.